DataSunrise's integration with the native database custom functions. In this session today, we will be covering how you can use DataSunrise capabilities to integrate it with pre-built custom functions, not just the ordinary way of using DataSunrise's bundled libraries that you might have already explored in the past, but DataSunrise will enable you to extend its capabilities for masking your data, to rely on functions that you have created yourself to adapt with certain business requirements, and accordingly it will be business-oriented masking of your data. So, in the next few slides, we'll be covering how you can connect to your database using DataSunrise infrastructure. We will cover this session using the proxy mode connection to DataSunrise. This demonstration is built to show you how you can mask the data and how you can get your application to connect to the database through the DataSunrise proxy mode. And we will also be able to compare the difference between the original data and the masked data using the custom functions that we will choose ourselves. So, I assume that you have already got exposed to this slide somewhere before when you started dealing with DataSunrise. With DataSunrise, in this example, for instance, we are connecting to the database through port 1522, and the original port is 1521. It is totally up to you to choose the ports for the database, for the initial listener configuration. In this is an Oracle database, for example, and the same applies pretty much for any other database. So we initially went with the default port, which is 1521, and chose 1522 as the proxy mode port for the database connection and for any application that will be using the masked data through DataSunrise. As we have already mentioned, that we are going to cover here today using custom functions, and as you might be already aware, custom functions or any function in an Oracle database, for example, can have zero number of parameters. It could have one parameter, it could have more. We are going to cover 3 examples here to explore pretty much every possible option where you can have no parameters at all, or when you can have one or more parameters in your database. So for this demonstration purposes, we are going to keep the first form enabled, as you can see here from this small light dot in green, and the rest will be in grey, which means that 2 other rules has been deactivated for the time being. Right, so now we have one active rule which has been created again as the salary column in the employees table. We will be able to see in a minute that this column is being masked using a function called HR.getSalary, alright, which we have selected it from here by connecting to the database, defining the schema name, and we were able to cut down the result to the HR schema pre-built functions, and we've chosen here in this example get_sal as the function that we will be protecting or masking our data in the salaries column using it. Right, so as we have mentioned before previously, that you can use a function with 0 number of parameters, or we can use 1 or more. But for this demonstration purposes, we have chosen to start with the 0 parameters function first, and then we will be able to see how we can use more than one parameter or even one parameter. Right, so in here we are going to proceed with no parameter values. We're just going to keep this tail empty and we'll see how to fill it up with parameters when required. We're going to see the role and leave it enabled. Right, so how does this function works? As you can see from the code in here, we have created the function using this code, and the code looks like that, as getSalary, no parameters, and the v_sal is the variable that holds the random number that will be generated using this code line in here, and the value will be generated when we try to select staff from a chartered employees. You can be as creative as you wish, alright? You can go from 0 to 1 and make the values look a little bit different. It's totally up to you. You can play with that as you like or as you wish. Alright, so if you deem the salary values in here more realistic to your business, then go for it. If you would like to adjust it a little bit, you can always do that using the code of the function as you have seen in this example. Alright, so this is the masked column, and we expect to get random value every single time we run the same statement, which is the select statement. So now it's 3,000 or 31,734, but when we run the same statement again, we are going to get a different value every single time, right? But if we go to the database and connect it to the database using the default port, which is 1521, as we have illustrated in the beginning of this demonstration, we are going always to get the same salary value, which is 2,400 or 24,000, sorry, for the first employee. And the same goes on and on every single time, because we are not masking it, we are not relying on any random functions, we are just pulling the actual data from the column stored in the data files. Okay, opposed to having a dynamic function like this function operating against the column's data. Right, so that pretty much summarizes what we can accomplish using custom function with no parameters. In the second example, we are going to cover, alright, pretty much the same scenario, but with the addition of provisioning an input parameter. And in this example, we have chosen PID to be the parameter that we will input into the function operation during the runtime of the masking function. The PID here stands for the ID column, or the primary key column in the employees table. During the runtime, you will not be able to pass values to the function. You would expect DataSunrise to do this operation for you. For that, we can enable you to solve this problem by adding a new parameter value and choose the parameter type in here. We have numerous parameter types you can choose from, and for the purposes of this example, we are going to choose another column from the same table, which is the employee ID, because PID, pardon me, PID in here is the employee ID parameter, or the employee ID column in the table. So you would expect to pass this value from the employee ID for every single row. If we have decided to do so, then we can save the rule and enable this rule. Of course, we do not wish to have two rules against the same color. So we will disable the first one and enable the second one that requires one parameter. We go back to the function. We're going to make sure that it has been created as required. And we are going this time to run our query. And we should expect pretty much similar result. That's not a surprise to us because we have chosen to do the same task or the same function using different method just to test out and try the PID or the parameter or the input parameter capability of Oracle functions and its integration with DataSunrise. So I hope that satisfies our expectation from this. All right, and yeah, again, as we can see, every single time we run the query, we get dynamic results based on the random number that will be generated in here. And again, if we go back and we query the original table from the database, the stored values will never change as long as no email operations has run against them. So yeah, that summarizes the second function as well in here and the second rule. Okay, so that takes us to the last example, and the last rule in here is the email column. So we have selected the email column from here. We connected to the database again. We decided to go for the employees table again and HR schema. That should be intuitive to you. Yes, alright, HR and employees. And in this example, of course, we have decided to deal with the email. Alright, so we choose email and say done, and then we choose the masking method that we intend to use in here. As you can see, we have chosen the custom function. You have plenty of libraries and functions that have been provided before, and we have decided in here to use the HR get email function. This function has been designed to accept two parameters. The first parameter is going to be the employee ID, and the second parameter shall be a fixed text string that you can pass, which would be used as the domain name for the email address. So we can have a quick look on how did we design this function. So it's very simple. Pretty much it relies on concatenation of strings and pulling them together to deviate from the original email address that has been already stored in the database. As you can see, the original email addresses here has been designed to accept the first name's first letter concatenated with the last name, and that's it. We're going to design a different structure or format for the emails, and that pretty much satisfies our requirement in this example, that we're not going to use the same format that the company uses for the emails. You can always choose different first names and different last names, but we just, for the demonstration purposes, we're going to stick to the original first name and last name. We're going to concatenate the values together with dot in between and then add domain, and we are going to pass the domain as a fixed string, okay, using DataSunrise's parameter value that we will pass in a second. Alright, so back in here we have chosen the text value that will be passed as datasunrise.com. Okay, so those two parameters, column name and fixed text string, and we are going to enable our rule and save the rule. There is no harm from having two active rules against two different columns that should be right. So we're going to leave the second row of the salary column with the employee emails masking row. Okay, so back here to the SQL developer. So now that we have activated the function, you should expect a different result from what we were getting before. We were getting a scheme and Nkushal whatever email addresses has been provided before. It's going to be different this time because we will have a different format implementing using DataSunrise's custom functions integration with the database. And as you can see, we have completely brand new format as per the function structure, and yeah, that pretty much satisfies the security requirements that we have assumed for this example. And again, you are free to use any other libraries in conjunction with the custom functions to further protect your first names, last names, and any other personally identifiable information you deem sensitive into your database, within your database. And yeah, you can always protect it the way you wish. I hope you have enjoyed the session, and I will be looking forward to answer any question you have regarding any topic we have discussed today and further. See you in the next session, and you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.